Katie Perrior is here, former Director of Communications in Downing Street, now runs in-house communications, of course, very successfully. She's got a great piece in the Times today, all about trying to organise a meeting between Theresa May, who she was advising in Downing Street, and Donald Trump. Katie, very good morning to you.
Good morning.
I must say, I got in the car this morning at 5 a.m, as I do, well, 4:45 actually. I saw this on the website and thought, oh, blimey, Katie's written a piece. I couldn't put it down. I read all the way to the office. I was just reading your piece about it. It was very funny, very interesting. So, I mean, if you can melt it down in about 5 minutes of conversation, tell us what you did.
That's very kind of you, Mike. But I wrote about the trip to the US because it looks smooth and on camera, but actually underneath it all, you're a bit like swans. Your legs are going at 100 miles an hour, trying to do all the things to make sure it doesn't go wrong. So it's not just the phone call, the first phone call that you get, where you come in the pecking order of that call, but the first visit. And Theresa May was very successful in winning the first ever visit post to Trump's inauguration to the US. But then it's a minefield. You know, half of government wants a cosy chat around the fireplace, where all these journalists that I take from England end up watching via live link from Trump Tower across the road. I knew that wouldn't go down very well. So in the end, I got a press conference that I wanted with the flags, with the podium, showing, you know, what we are made of. We might be a small island, but actually we have this special relationship, and we were going to go there to show him how it's done. Yeah, absolutely brilliant. And you even had to worry about, as you say, what was on the podium, or who was asking what questions, who got to ask questions to her, whether he was going to answer any of the questions at random, and presumably you also have to deal with his people, who are also got a list of demands, you know, a mile long. Well, Trump loves a long Q&A where he just spirals out of control and it gets worse and worse. And so I wanted to keep the whole thing very tight, very controlled. A couple of questions from his side. You know, he went to some friends at Fox News and chatted away. And a couple of questions from our side. And this is the British media. They are not necessarily that generous and kind towards him. And I knew it would be challenging. But I also thought that it was a good idea. I actually said to Theresa May at one point, have you ever seen the film Love Actually? You know, sometimes you've got to stand there and show him who's boss. Don't forget, she'd been Home Secretary before being Prime Minister in the UK. So she knew what it was like to have these big set moments, dealing with terrorist attacks and things like that. Trump was still on his kind of press conference stabilisers. So we were kind of there to show him what we wanted to do. But it wasn't easy, and he had to go at me afterwards about the choice of questioning that I put to him. And also, I think now that he's kind of coming back again second time around, I think he's a bit more sophisticated. I think he knows more about the system. He knows more about, you know, being president, obviously, because he's been president for 4 years. And he seems to know... I mean, he's appointed, for example, today, the first ever woman chief of staff in the White House, which is amazing, really. Susie Wiles, who's called Ice Baby Susie, apparently. So that's a step in the right direction. But, I mean, the other thing that I found fascinating was your description of how everybody reacted when... Do you remember when he walked out of wherever it was they were, holding Theresa May's hand? But of course, I swear by this, that was not a planned moment. I spent a lot of time thinking about the pictures, the backdrop, the flags, and at no point in my agenda or on Sean Spicer's agenda, who was the White House press secretary at the time and who I had spent a lot of time liaising with about the visit and about the pictures and the optics from it, was there anything about a hand-holding being mentioned? And I genuinely think to this day that Donald Trump has a little bit of a problem with steps and vertigo, and he grabbed her hand. Later he said, oh, he was being a gentleman. He just wanted to make sure that she wasn't going to fall over, but I actually think it was more him. But if you see the pictures, Theresa May looks as surprised as I was, standing behind the cameraman, looking at each other going, that's the picture, isn't it? All my plans gone out the window. But hey, yeah, because what can you do? You can't like suddenly snatch your hand away, can you? Or you know, just sort of pretend that you're enjoying it. You just kind of have to deal with it and kind of hope that it doesn't go on for too long, presumably. Yeah, there's a lot of winging it on these visits. You know, you can plan as much as you possibly can, but unfortunately things are out of your control. You know, what was talked about at lunch can be planned from what we would like to get out of the agenda and what we'd like to discuss, commitment to NATO, defence spending, what a post-Brexit Britain might look like. But of course, when Trump wants to talk to you about abortion, golf courses, Nicola Sturgeon in Scotland, you just have to go with it, really. And Theresa's pretty good at that. And doing a lot of nodding and smiling. Sounds like a nightmare job. You're probably glad you're not doing it anymore, aren't you? Well, there was a funny moment, actually, where the next morning I came down to breakfast and Theresa May gave me the look and asked me a few questions as to whether or not I'd been out the night before, and there were some noises from my room. And I suddenly gasped and thought, oh, my God, she thinks I got lucky last night and I had someone in my room. the ambassador had a cat, and no one told me, and it jumped on my face about 3 o'clock in the morning and frightened the life out of me. So I had to explain to the Prime Minister that indeed the screaming from my room wasn't a great night out, or a great night in, should I say. It was more about beware of pets. So, yeah, you kind of have to expect the unexpected in this gig.
Yeah. So in terms of what he does, well, what Keir Starmer does, I suppose, because, I mean, he wasn't the first person to get a phone call in to Donald Trump, but he was relatively, I suppose, soon after Macron and a couple of other people. When does he... So will they be now doing the same thing? Will they be trying to arrange a visit to Washington, or will they be trying to get Trump to come here?
Yes, although they'll be taking it carefully. They know the public reaction to Trump, as I did back in the day in 2016-17. You know, you look at the polling, people believe in the special relationship. They know that you need to be making sure that you're working hand in hand in a whole number of different arenas, but they are wary of a close relationship, and they want us to stand up for ourselves. So there is a fine line to tread. I think Starmer should do two things. First of all, understand that Trump's bark is worse than his bite. So actually some of his work is more measured than you might think, but sometimes he takes to Twitter late at night and says a few things. Ignore it. Don't be dragged into it. Don't react really soon. Yeah. And the other thing as well is also that, you know, Trump likes to win in every scenario. You don't want to be the loser. You need to find a scenario where he wins and you win too. And I'm sure with Keir Starmer's background at the bar and his long legal profession, he might be able to manoeuvre his way around that.
You'd like to think so. Katie, great to talk to you. Great piece. It's in the Times today. Katie Perrior, former Director of Communications at Downing Street. Thank you very much indeed.